One power, invisible, and you see it everywhere and every day. One power, indescribable, and you speak of it with every word you say. Mysterious until you know the truth. As simple as the love inside of you. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, angels' wings or heaven's door. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? It's the power of the love in you and me. One power, one power.
Good morning and welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living, Midtown Atlanta, on this August 11th. Such is the nature of life that all it asks and all it wants is the opportunity to appear. And you are that opportunity, and so am I. And so it is. Whoever you are, whatever path brought you here today, please know that you are welcome and celebrated. We know who you are. You are an individual expression of the divine life, which we all live. We are life's opportunity to be someone unique and wonderful. Whatever your ethnic background, religious affiliation, however you know yourself or describe yourself, you are welcome to be part of this community in whatever way serves you. We are a strong, globally open, globally connected community centered on the clarity of principle through teaching, service, and practice. We create a safe and respectful environment that supports healthy spiritual growth. And for some more on what we believe, I'll give you our Declaration of Principles, and this is what they are. We got a little bit.
I believe
in one God,
one absolute power and first cause to all things.
I believe that this power is perfect love
and creates out of a desire to express love.
I believe all thought is creative, and how I choose to think creates my personal experience.
I believe in the unity of all life
and the immortality of the individual soul,
forever unfolding.
I believe
in the eternal goodness,
the eternal goodness of God,
the eternal loving kindness,
and the eternal givingness of God to all.
And so it is.
And so it is.
And so it is.
And so it is. So we have spiritual mind practitioners. A practitioner is someone who has demonstrated the ability to use spiritual practice and spiritual laws to bring about great changes in their lives. They have demonstrated they know how to bring these about changes in others when asked as well. Licensed by Centers for Spiritual Living, they are able to provide you with spiritual guidance and support in those areas where you're looking for assistance. You can contact them through our website, cslmidtown.org. There's a list of practitioners there. And today we have one of our wonderful practitioners to share with us good ideas and affirmative prayer called a spiritual mind treatment. Welcome, Mya Fuller. Hey, Mya, you're muted. Okay, there you go.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Vance. Greetings, CSL Midtown. Welcome to our service this Sunday morning. Oh my goodness. Let me tell you about life. Let me tell you about God. my notes are completely gone from my when I had to move to unmute, my notes are completely gone. Let me tell you about life. I told my my spiritual brother, my spiritual sisters this morning that I was going to speak from my heart today, and I was not going to read off of a script, because that is more true to the way that I communicate about these spiritual principles. And instead, I was about to chicken out and read from the page, which has now disappeared when I had to put myself on mute. So I'm on mute. Good morning, CSL Midtown. Good morning. Welcome to this August, second week of August CSL Midtown topic. Our topic for this month is unstatus quo. And the topic for this week is something like, because I don't have any of my notes, something like healing the trauma or addressing trauma. And last week, when we talk about unstatus quo, last week, Reverend John Carn opened us up to kind of give us an introduction to let us know what is it we're talking about? What is this unstatus quo that we're talking about? And we're talking about how in our lives, there are certain topics, there are certain topics that we don't want to address, that we don't feel as comfortable addressing. Judy mentioned in her talk last week about how our practitioner of last week, she mentioned how we come to the center and we're used to things being a certain way. We dress a certain way. We talk about certain topics. We have a certain order of service, and we stay within our status quo of safe conversations, right? We don't delve into topics about sexism or racism or tragedies, really, like war. We don't talk about politics, right? We don't talk about these uncomfortable. We don't have many of these uncomfortable conversations here at Centers for Spiritual Living Midtown in particular. I'm not saying that they don't have that at other centers, but at this center, we pride ourselves, and rightly so, of being a center that really teaches about spiritual mind, about principles, the science of mind, religious science principles and practices for how to have a better life, right? And this is what Reverend Raymont, who's going to be our speaker today, in a personal conversation. So I'm not saying this is the way he would say this publicly, or that's the exact way he would say it. But he said that we have kind of like an old new thought and a new thought. And an older traditional new thought is really talking about personal empowerment. And it's good. This is a traditional new thought, and it's great. Personal empowerment and how we can think differently to change our lives and empower our lives, change our thinking, change our lives. And we will also know that we all, though, have these experiences in life that we don't necessarily like to talk about. Somebody might have a person with disabilities in our family that does not really talked about at the center. People have experienced horrible things in their lives, whether it be through people's deaths or through experiencing war or extreme poverty, or things that were I'm calling them horrible, but that were hurtful to them, right? That caused them pain, right? We have all experienced things that has caused us some kind of pain, some kind of way to make us feel like we are out of the status quo, right? That we are on the margins, or experiencing things on the margins that people don't really like to talk about too much, right? It kind of, can step on some toes or feel uncomfortable for people to talk about these uncomfortable things. Well, that's what this month is all about, talking about uncomfortable things. The whole month is about talking about the things that have been uncomfortable for us. And today we are blessed to have Reverend Raymont Anderson, who has been really good in starting to teach us what I've understood to be the new thought, ushering in the new era where we are continuing to expand a new thought. Like Ernest Holmes told us to be open at the top. We're continuing to expand a new thought so that we are now not just looking at how I can change my thinking and change my life, but how can I also be there in community? We're opening up to more community-oriented discussions and ways of thinking that have me be able to be present and listen to my brother, my sister, my friend, or the person who walks through the door speak about, and today in particular, their trauma. That is the topic today, speaking about and uncovering and taking a look at our trauma. Things that we don't necessarily usually talk about on a Sunday morning, but we definitely want to work with, even with the traditional New Thought. We want to work with these things in order for us to come to a greater empowerment in our lives. And in the as New Thought progresses, as CSL, Centers for Spiritual Living, progresses to really be more aware of our brother and our sister, to be more aware of others in our community, we're saying, let us create a safe space for people to be able to address these things that have made them feel, or we have, the society tends to identify as other, or as outside of the status quo, or speaking outside of the box. So we have the opportunity to grow, right? That's what CSL is all about. Centers for Spiritual Living is all about. Spiritual living is not just spiritual living for me; it's spiritual living for everybody. That is the heart of Centers for Spiritual Living, and New Thought and religious science. And the last thing that I want to say about that topic is that if we look at our centers, we've been experiencing. We can look at our centers, and we can see that the age of the members of Centers for Spiritual Living across the country, across maybe the world, but definitely across the country, we're aging, right? We're starting to be like 40s and over, right? We're starting to be like 50s. I think at our center, we're pretty well, for the most part. Yeah, like 40s and over, mid 40s and over. I think I can think of one person who's probably like in her, mid 30s who comes to our discussion group. But otherwise, in terms of the people that we see, right, we're an aging community, right? This traditional way that we've been doing church, we've been doing Centers for Spiritual Living, the things that we've been talking about are kind of aging with us. One thing that I do notice out here on the internet is that, and also having a daughter, a 26-year-old daughter who's on the cusp of being a millennial and a Gen Zer, these young people do talk about these things, talk more and more, and which is normal. Each generation becomes more open, right? We are more open than our parents were about the way that we talk about our feelings and things like that, right? It's normal that each generation progresses. But what I'm seeing is that this generation, they talk about these things. They talk about trauma in particular. These young people are very well read and well informed when it comes to processing their feelings and their thoughts. And so it behooves us to be able to be in step with them if we want to attract a younger audiences, younger people to our communities. So let us be open to talking about trauma with others. Because we've all experienced them, and that's part of our oneness. So let us go into spiritual mind treatment to prepare our minds and our hearts to be open to talking about, thinking about uncomfortable topics. Sometimes we just recognize that sometimes these topics that we don't want to talk about is because we don't want to think about them ourselves. It will remind us of experiences that we've had that are too painful to think of. And so we know that there's one presence, one power in the universe, and that presence and power is God, infinite intelligent life, infinite intelligent spirit that always knows what we need and that is always here for us. We're always connected with this loving presence, this loving power, and nothing can harm us. Nothing can harm us. We're always safe. We're always connected. We're always one with the one powerful, loving, comforting, safe presence of spirit. And so no conversation about someone's trauma can hurt us. We are all one, and no conversation about my own trauma can destroy me. I'm still here, and we are here to live wonderful, expansive lives. And very often we have to address the dark places, the dark things, to bring them into the light for us to experience our wholeness. So I know that that's what happens today at today's session, where Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson teaches us about how to open our minds and our hearts to address the topic of trauma. We just give thanks that wonderful things unfold for each of us here, each of us who hears this message, and we let it be. And so it is. Amen.
It's burning inside, the hurting and the suffering. Minds creating anger, fear and pain, suffocating our times. The tougher it gets, the rougher social media cries. But we see to it that we tweeting only negative lines. We're sick and tired of history, but repeating it twice. Greed, anger and violence, clearly stealing our nights. Feeling it tight between the shoulders with a chill in the spine. Pinching myself, waking up, trying to stop the rewind and move forward towards stories, overcoming our fears. Choosing love over hate, praying, trading hugs over tears. There's only one choice, breaking down the walls and repair every broken heart on this planet till there's no longer fear.
Walls can't hold us in. Fear can't keep us down. Love will rise again. Yeah, it's rising right now. We shall overcome.
Every time I think it's gonna take much longer,
We shall overcome.
every time I question, am I getting stronger?
We have just begun.
Gonna make a change, we gotta push much farther.
We shall overcome.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. Young Gandhi couldn't fathom how to deal with himself when he was thrown off the train and the pain that he felt. Mrs. Parks disrespected, dragged into jail because of the color of her skin, organs, tissues, and cells. One day, a young girl was shot on a bus by a man, a terrorist, part of the Taliban. He said, on this land, you have no right to stand for what you believe in. Girls have no chance here. Well, now, that's just the story of three souls who shook our planet after being down on their knees. And it's not gonna stop. Those seeds have now become trees, and as human beings, we'll keep on digging till we find peace.
Yeah, the cynics always say that nothing ever changes. The human nature's bound to stay the same. But it couldn't be more plain that violence never pays, injustice never stays. It's bound to fade away. What if history awaits? What if today's the day? So let's all lead the way. We shall overcome.
Every time I think it's gonna take much longer,
We shall overcome.
every time I question, am I getting stronger?
We have just begun.
Gonna make a change, we gotta push much farther.
We shall overcome.
We shall overcome. Come on now. Longer.
We shall overcome.
Every time I question, am I getting stronger?
We shall overcome.
Make a change, we gotta push much farther.
Someday.
'Cause I'm feeling it deep in my heart.
Deep in my heart.
I do believe.
I do believe.
I do believe.
We shall overcome someday.
Come on, put your hearts together. Here we go. Woo! I knew it. God had a plan for us to do it, to hit rock bottom before we rise and continue, to first learn greed before we learn to be human, to do wrong deeds before we learn to spread beauty. There's always a plan, and now it's time to take a stand for the right of the planet, every woman and man. We ain't gonna stop, only growing our demands for all beings to feel peace in every heart and land. Thank you, Lord, for the strength and the courage to bring us together and keep our souls nourished. These tough times will only drown in our chorus, cause we all believe that the truth is before us. We shall overcome this pain. We shall overcome this day. We pray for love to lead the way. We pray for love to lead the way.
Welcome back. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker this morning, Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson. He's an ordained Centers for Spiritual Living minister, and he serves as the founding minister and spiritual director of the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts, which is a Centers for Spiritual Living teaching center. He brings his years of being a professional educator, visual artist, visual art performer, ASL interpreter, author, lover of comics, films, and all areas of his life and his ministry. He's frequently a sought-after guest at various churches, centers, and events. For him, ministry extends beyond the church center. He facilitates workshops related to radical self-care, living with purpose, LGBTQ empowerment, exploring and expressing creativity, and much more. He's both the co-lead for his local Moms Demand Action and the chapter's interfaith lead and participant in the Survivor Fellowship. When he's not teaching, speaking, writing, creating, performing, he loves spending time with his family, which includes harassing his amazing grandchildren. All right, here we have this morning, Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson.
Namaste and greetings. Thank you so very much, Vance. Thank you, Mya. Thank you, everyone who is present today. Good morning, CSL Midtown family. What is up? It is, as always, great being with you. And, can you tell I'm buttering you up? Because, today, Mya told you what we're talking about today. Today, we are discussing a rather uncomfortable topic, a topic that many people, many times, in many ways, would refer to it as non-spiritual. And yet, how could it not be if God is all there is, the infinite I am is all there is, spirit is all there is, the universe is all there is, then how could it not also be within the scope of spirituality? So, yes, we are talking about trauma today, but we are not going to talk about it in the way that you might be thinking. So let me begin with a brief story. Many years ago, when I lived in Prince George's County in Maryland, a friend of mine who was a sheriff at the time shared something with me, a bit of information about a not too far nearby neighborhood hospital, where she said that there are times when people are shot in D.C., in Washington, D.C., and the paramedics will drive them across the state lines, county lines, drive them from there 45 minutes to this particular hospital, even though there are other hospitals closer by. Same thing for various places in Maryland. They will drive an extra amount of time where one would think, well, wait a minute, if you are driving further, then are you not reducing the amount of possible? And so I said, why are they doing that? Because this one particular hospital specializes in gunshot trauma, which means the fact that these people are masters of handling this particular type of trauma even though the drive to get there is longer, once they are in these people's capable hands, their chances of survival quadruple. Okay, pause and put that in your mind. Also, let me share that there was a time where, let me stop telling you an untruth. There's a time now where I and my sister Tracy, where we will drive an hour to get to a particular restaurant, particular Chinese restaurant, even though there's a Chinese restaurant 20 minutes away. Why an hour? Well, think about it. Because it's the same thing. With both of these examples, the idea is we are going where we are being served. We are going where we are receiving that which we desire, be it health and well-being or delicious food. Whatever it is, we are willing to go there for it. So let us ask the same thing. Our centers, our churches, our communities, what are we offering? Are we offering people who are coming from all kinds of backgrounds something that is nutritious for their body, minds, and spirits? Now, there are some people who would say that, Sunday, this thing we call a sermon, a message, a talk, that it should be inspirational only. Well, personally, as someone from my firsthand experience who has attended various events and services, etc., that completely changed the trajectory of my life, I know the importance of offering more than just inspiration. Because inspiration by itself, while good, is only going to represent, resonate, connect, align with someone who is at that phone number. Get what I'm saying? If someone who is in the throes of trauma and desperation, I just became unhoused. I can be inspired, but if the words of inspiration aren't addressing my trauma as someone who is unhoused, as someone who just found out my mother has 6 months to live, as someone who just received the cancer diagnosis, as someone who, then the inspiration is about as useful as giving a photograph of a sandwich to a person who is starving. This thing called trauma is a very uncomfortable topic for a variety of reasons. But if we are really going to benefit a world that works for all, then we have an option. If someone's nose is bleeding, option 1, give them a handkerchief. Option number 2, stop their nose from bleeding. Which option would you prefer? The average person would rather actually have the trauma be addressed rather than simply bypassing or metaphysically malpracticing their experience, their symptoms. So we have the opportunity to feed people from a huge banquet-style menu, or we can simply hand out a series of hors d'oeuvres, appetizers, and items from the 99-cent dollar menu. It's a choice. Neither of these are wrong or bad, but what we're saying is, because the dollar menu stuff is going to satisfy someone's hunger in the moment. But if we know that more is available, we know that true life-affirming power is available, would we not give them that rather than simply some onion rings? It has been said, give a person a fish and they eat for a day. Teach them to fish and they eat for a lifetime. To which I always add, well, give them a fish while teaching them to fish. Because if they are nourished, they are going to learn throughout the process far easier. So it need not be either or. We need not address trauma from either or. It can be both and. We can be spiritual beings who understand infinite oneness, that God is all there is, that we are connected, that we can never be separated, while also understanding that a friend, a family member, or ourselves feel depression, grief, fear, anxiety, and more. So in this idea of discussing trauma, it benefits us to do so from the awareness that no matter what is going on in our individual lives, our collective communities, or in the world, the truth of our being, even in the midst of what's going on, the truth of our being is wholeness, perfection, and completeness. And it's precisely because of that truth that we are able to move through the process of healing, evolving, shifting, changing, transforming. Because if there was no such thing as physical health, then there would be no possibility for the surgeons to address a bullet wound. If there was no such thing as health and well-being, there would be no thing for the nurses to do to help my blood pressure be lowered, because there is no such thing as healthy blood pressure. But because there is wholeness, perfection, and completeness, even in the midst of the trauma, we can know the truth while working through the process. Breathe. So how are we as practitioners, whether we are licensed or not, how are we invited to address trauma and move into healing it, whether it is our own or someone else's? If we are to truly support every individual's right and opportunity to a grand rising, to know the truth about themselves, to be set free by the truth of themselves, then this topic, which is often taboo, trauma, we have to move through that and get to a space of there is no such thing as a taboo topic in spiritual community. Now, one of the things Mya said about the idea of old new thought and then new thought. Traditionally, we have taught things, practiced things such as the law of attraction, and we have taught things where we've implied that what you speak about, you bring about, that being against something means you're attracting more of it because energy flows where attention goes. We have shunned people and shamed them and blamed them for their experiences. How? By insinuating that they created it. What's in your consciousness? Or that they did this somehow because of a soul contract. Let us be clear that this is a grade school version of spirituality versus a university level spirituality. Yes, there are elements to the truth. Law of attraction. Yes, just as there is basic math, 2 + 2 = 4. And that is not absent from college level trigonometry and calculus. But how is the basic math and the order of operations, how is it being carried out? How is it being practiced? Because very few people, if any, are immune from trauma. There are adverse childhood experiences, poverty, unhoused, medical trauma, collective experiences of things like war, displacement, terrorism, mass shootings, natural disasters, just to name a few. Did you know that many health organizations have identified that the effects of COVID, the recent pandemic, has left many of us traumatized? And yet many of us don't realize that we're traumatized as a result of it. Dr. Sean Ginwright says, we are all wounded and carry the shame and pain in ways we are unaware of. Yet we are not equipped with the skills or the awareness to heal our trauma. And yet, within Science of Mind 4.0, we are equipped. Because that's what I refer to this as. What I practice, Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0. And Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0 provides a strong, relevant, and effective foundation of principles and practices to support and facilitate our healing if we are willing to go beyond knowing truth in spiritual mind treatment to applying truth. Treat and move our feet. What if we practice this thing called science of mind and spirit as a trauma-informed science of mind and spirit, a trauma-informed new thought? What might that do for our communities? When someone is experiencing whatever it is that they are experiencing, and we have a deeper understanding that gives them the space and the capacity to share authentically. That when Mya says to me, "Hey, Ray, how are you today?" I need not put on a happy face because I don't want her to judge me. Put on a happy face. Well, I'm being inauthentic. I'm not in integrity if I have to lie because I'm afraid that Mya is then going to turn around and say, well, maybe you shouldn't talk about that. Maybe you should tell a different story. But what happened to me is what happened to me. Yes, but if you... And so I don't come back to the community because I feel shame. But what happens when Mya says, "Hey, Ray, what's going on? How are you today?" And I can share completely, authentically, and openly, and Mya listens because she is listening through the ears of someone who understands what trauma-informed new thought means, what trauma-informed new thought can do for the person she is listening to. She tenderly, through her listening, envelops me, nurtures me, supports me, gives me the space to breathe freely. What can that do? And then we bring in all kinds of topics that we have avoided. How can science of mind and spirit help eliminate, not reduce, eliminate mass shootings in schools, movie theaters, churches, nightclubs? How can science of mind and spirit create a more effective, if people are going to own guns, how can science of mind shift the consciousness so that there is more effective gun ownership? How can science of mind and spirit 4.0 address the situation of poverty or the unhoused, the fentanyl and opioid epidemic? Because simply not talking about it when there are people dying is immature spiritual practice. And we don't use the word, but it's blasphemy. To recognize that God is all there is, but to not live, move, and have our beingness in such a manner that I, through my presence, am helping you know that which God is as you. Because I'm denying certain things that you have experienced. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to hear about that. Can't we all just kumbaya and just pretend? Can't we all just come to, church on Sunday, come to the center on Sunday, and leave the entire world out there to fend for itself? I just want this 1 hour just to be reminded that God is all there is, love is all there is, and what it is I am. I just want to feel happy. I hear you. Which is why, for me, our centers, we are being invited to see our centers in a multitude of ways. It is a place of, quote unquote, worship, a place of recognizing your divinity. It is a hospital for those who need triage. It is a physical therapy place for those who need to continue working on mobility and flexibility. It is an educational facility for those who are ready to learn. It is a recreational place where we come together and we potluck and we, play dominoes and we go to the movies and we laugh and we joke. It is all of these and more. It's not just a place where we come together, hold hands and sing kumbaya and ignore what's going on in the world. Because let's go back to, suppose Mya comes up to me and Mya says, "Hey, Ray," and I say, "Hey, Mya, how are you doing?" And Mya says, "Well, I've had a rough..." I don't want to hear that. You asked me how I'm doing. Yeah, but I don't want to hear that. And I can see Amaya's face right now as I'm saying that. Like, did you just shut me down? But let us think. We shut people down when they come to our communities. We don't do it in quite that manner, but we do it. To say to someone something like, well, Ray, you know, I don't see color. You're shutting me down. Because what you're doing is denying the fact that that which God is incarnated itself as a 5'10", brown-skinned, divine being. But what you're saying is, I don't see color. I don't see this one aspect of what God has chosen, how God has chosen to express itself. But wait a minute, because when you go to buy bananas in the grocery store, you clearly can see the difference between the green banana and the yellow banana, the green tomato and the red tomato. You can clearly see the color there. But when it comes to me, we disregard and shut people down in a great many ways. So our invitation with this whole idea of trauma is to understand trauma it is a far-reaching, we could be here for a whole month talking about this, and I got about 6 minutes left. So I invite everyone to simply engage in doing a little research to see someone who is experiencing trauma. It can show up as interpersonal conflict, chronic pain, low self-esteem, self-loathing, depression, numbing. Like, how many people simply roll as a mindless activity to numb themselves so that they need not address whatever? If we are going to move into a space of true healing, then as Mark Nimo says, the truth is that telling, talking, communicating heals. Not just once, but as a way of being that filters in the heart of its debris. When we talk about stuff, we are engaging in healing. When we truly talk about it. Layla F. Saad says, if you tell the real, raw, ugly truths to get to the rotten core of such things as internalized white supremacy, then what you put out into the world will be beyond transformational. We cannot create a world that works for all without addressing the caste system. We cannot talk about equity without talking about inequity. We cannot talk about true healing without talking about trauma. How rational is it to, hold on, I have to call a plumber, to contact a plumber without telling them why you're contacting them? So I have a situation with my sink. Well, what's going on with your sink? Well, I mean, in CSL, we don't talk about the problem. So there's something up with my sink. Yeah, but I'm asking, like, because I need to know what tools to bring. I can't tell you. How rational is it? How rational is it to go to a physician because you're in pain, but you will not tell them where it hurts, what hurts, how it hurts, the intensity of the hurt? I'm here. Yes, Ray, why are you here? How do you feel? I feel good. Then why are you here? Why are you in the ER and you feel good? I don't know how to talk about I'm in pain, but if I talk about my pain, then I'm going to attract more pain. And if I talk about my depression, I'm going to create more depression. If I talk about how rational is it? If we go to a doctor, a physician, then we share if we truly want them to do what they do. We want the plumber to fix the sink. Hey, Culligan, man, then let the plumber fix the sink. Tell them what's going on. As the song earlier said, yes, we shall overcome, but we shall overcome only when we realize that overcome means healing. And we cannot heal what we will not address. So as a quick example, within New Thought, we are a hugging people, and we generally just run up and hug folks without recognizing that for some folks who have been traumatized in a variety of ways, They don't want to be hugged. And in ignoring that of them, we're ignoring them and their needs, which increases the likelihood that they are not going to return. So we want thriving communities. We want the beloved community. We want a world that works for all. Well, then we have to change. We have to be willing, as Mark Singer says, we have to be willing to be open, because when you open, you bring more energy into the system, and the system can heal. Energy can heal, which is why love can heal. We are no longer talking about a micro. Hopefully you can hear me now. I don't know what happened there. If we want, as I said, I will repeat, if we want to truly heal, then we have to be willing to address whatever is going on. If we want our communities to thrive, we want the beloved community, we want all of that, then we have to be willing to move into a new space of prophetic vision, liberation theology, where nothing is off the table. Dr. Holmes said, in this science of mind and spirit, we believe that everyone's life is a drama which takes place on 3 planes: the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. We should have no objections to any form of healing. For anything that helps to overcome, heal, suffering is good. Whether it is a pill or a prayer, we believe in any method which produces results. For each has its place in the whole. Each has its place in the whole. So our invitation is, look at the thing, call a thing, whatever it is, see it, understand it, and then move through the process of healing it. Not as a microwave theology where you put it in 30 seconds and it's done, but as an ongoing practice. Because this thing, science of mind and spirit, is an ongoing practice. Creating a world that works for all is an ongoing practice. And so we breathe, and then we practice. And so it is.
Thank you, Reverend Dr. Raymont. What an amazing talk this morning. And so that's why we're here every week, to share this concept, these ideas, this expanded consciousness with each one of us, to grow and to be and to share and to know a greater expansiveness of what is possible in our lives. So with that, I'd like to move into our affirmation of prosperity, where you can go online at cslmidtown.org/donate, or scan the QR code on your screen and say with me now our affirmation of prosperity. I live in a universe of abundance. As I freely and joyfully give, I join in the divine flow, and all that I share with life returns to me multiplied abundantly. And so it is. And so thank you for your contributions. We welcome them, and we are working on what we can do to expand that a little bit. We got some updates coming. We had a board meeting this last week, and we talked about that. We are sustaining with this model we've got, but to attract a new minister, we're going to have a lot more contributions to do that. And so the attraction of the consciousness for that, we are working on. We're working on getting our co-creation process going, which is the next step in figuring out what that looks like for a minister. We're planning probably sometime in October for that. So stay tuned. Keep your ears open and your eyes for the newsletter and letters for that, so that you know when that's coming up to participate, because we want everybody to participate in the beginning, and then there's a select group of us that will continue on to refine that, what that means. So with that, thank you, Mya. Thank you, Raymont. We've got, oh, and if you want, we're going to join over on Zoom. So you can go to the CSLMidtown.org website, scroll down to the bottom, click on the Zoom link, the little code, get in the room and have our discussion with Raymont. So for now, say our affirmation of life. I leave this place now knowing something better than I knew before. I go forth into the world with a heart full of love and a mind full of good sense. I look at the world in a greater way, knowing that I have within me everything I need to create the life I desire. I give thanks for this understanding, and I am grateful for the spirit of life that lives through me. And so it is. Have a great week.
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for all that I have. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for all that I have. Hey! Oh yeah. Grateful. I just say I am so grateful every day for all I have. Every day. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for all I have. Every day I say it. Grateful. How I'm grateful. Every day. Oh yeah. I am so grateful. Oh yeah. I'm so grateful. 'Cause I accept and I receive. I am so grateful. Oh yes, I am. I am so grateful. Hey, grateful. I just count my blessings. Grateful. I just count my blessings.
So grateful.